Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? Saints Day 7 out in Irvine, California. Our buddy Ross Jackson, Locked On Saints, good enough to join us for a couple of minutes, as he has each day throughout camp. Give us our camp report. How are you, man?
Hey, buddy. Doing great. Glad to be here.
Hey, I want to start after noticing Demario Davis go off today with injury as well at the hamstring. Feels like every day there's been somebody, and it's somebody of significance, from Davis, Brazil, Lattimore, Kamara, Olave, Saldiveri. Give me a flyover, if you would, Ross, on the injuries and what, if any, of them should we be concerned about at this point?
Yeah, I think as of right now, the biggest ones that you're watching. Look, Chris Olave was back at practice today. He participated in everything, so he should be all good.
Good.
The biggest ones that you're really watching right now are Marshawn Lattimore. He made his first appearance today. To say something positive there. He did make his first appearance today. He was some sweats off the side, but I think you're still watching that one. He's kind of going through a rehab process for his injury and things like that. And so, this is kind of this hip flexor injury, which could be, any number of different things in terms of what the timelines could be on that and all these other pieces. So that's definitely a big one to watch. I think the Demario one's a big one to watch as well. I mean, a hamstring injury, we've seen how long that's already kept Kendre Miller out, which he's basically been out since the second week of practices. So something to watch for there for sure. Saldiveri, who's dealing with a calf injury, which is a repeat injury for him. So definitely something there. I find this all very concerning, if I'm being fully honest. And you know me, I'm not the alarmist by any means.
Sure.
But this just feels like a strange thing that's going on, to where, I mean, in injury every single day. It's been 7 days in a row where we've seen this, and it just feels like really, really bad luck for New Orleans. And I think if this is what it looks like in training camp, it makes sense to be concerned about what it's going to look like when these guys are actually going full speed. And so I think those are the biggest ones you're going to be paying attention to: Marshall Lattimore, Demario Davis, Nick Saldiveri for sure. This just feels like something that is maybe worth, or at least warrants, a little bit more concern than maybe many are expecting that it should.
Okay. And we still got a month before the Saints take the field against Carolina, so a time to get this right. But you're right. I mean, that's why you asked the question, Ross. It's like it's 7 consecutive. It's like every day. Right. It's somebody. Is there something with the training protocol? Is it just bad luck? It's something we're definitely gonna have to keep watching. I noticed you also pointed out today. It looked like the defensive line maybe had a really good day. How much of that was defensive line playing well? How much of that is maybe validating some of the concerns about the offensive line?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a little bit of both. I think that this defensive line has been making some really good plays. I mean, there's a big difference between, beating an offensive lineman and actually making the play, right? And so I think that there's been some good displays of the defensive line doing what it is that it needs to do. But I understand 100%, and I myself would say, like, if the Saints needed to field an offensive line this weekend, I'd be severely concerned about that offensive line. If they needed to field an offensive line this weekend, then I'd be really concerned about that line. And now, thankfully, they don't have to. Right. So it doesn't have to be as big of a concern. But it's still something that's clearly coming together for this team. And I think some of it, too, Dennis Allen kind of explained that the offense has installed a limited amount of its offense so far. And so the defense is doing a good job now being able to anticipate what's coming because they've seen all of it multiple times. And so some of that might be leading to it. But even with that being the case, you'd still like to see your offense and your offensive line be able to execute blocks, right? Like, there's a big difference between, they knew that the play was coming, and, this guy beat that guy again. And so I think that those are the things that make me feel a little bit still concerned about the offensive line at this time.
Ross Jackson's with us, Locked On Saints. Make sure you're subscribed on your favorite podcast app. They're on YouTube as well. He's out in Irvine, giving us our Saints camp reports every day. Anything from Klint Kubiak catch your ear today when you were listening to him after practice?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing with Klint is that he's got a very clear understanding of the way that he wants this offense to run. The one thing that I wish that would have gotten in that I would like to hear a little bit more about from him is he kind of touched on, like, the builds of the wide receivers and things like that. And I'm really curious about what it is that led to their current construction of their wide receiver room, because it's not the it's not the quintessential wide receiver room where you have the big outside possession guy complemented by the speed guy over on the opposite side and all that. And so I'm curious about, where they're sort of looking at the pieces falling together when it comes to building up that wide receiver room. So that's something I'd like to hear a little bit more about with him. But the thing about Klint Kubiak is that he does a really good job of showing you stuff on the field and then keeping everything very understated when it comes to his press conferences and things like that. So I think that still seeing sort of his clear vision for what he wants this offense to be able to do, the usage of play action, things like that were some of the things that stood out.
What about the quarterbacks, man? I know the backup job will probably start to get a better feel for that whenever they actually start preseason games. But any takeaways so far with Rattler and Haener?
Yeah, I think I'm going to be honest. I think that the kind of battle that we expected between them has underwhelmed a little bit. Neither of these guys have really separated from one another, and neither of them have really moved themselves forward in a lot of different ways. We're seeing, fumbled snaps. We've seen, a couple of interceptions thrown, things like that, of course. But those are all things that come with training camp. But for every big play that Haener makes, Rattler makes. For every big play that Rattler makes, Haener makes. For every bad play that each makes, the other one has a bad play. It all feels very even when it comes to the two of them. So I think that for the Saints, though, that's probably a good thing for them, that there's not one of these two quarterbacks that they've invested time in separating themselves wildly from the other. And so they get the good, grace of being able to see, how do these guys operate in the meeting room? How do they operate in the film room? How do they operate, in terms of their communication and the huddle and all these other things? To where those things will be the ones that end up kind of driving that competition a little bit further, as well as, of course, the preseason. But I will say that both of these quarterbacks, they're talented quarterbacks. They're quarterbacks that I think could run this system. They're not necessarily showing me anything right now, though, to where I'd say either one of these guys is a quarterback that you'd want to see coming into a game in place of Derek Carr in 2024, at least up until this point.
What's the plan for the day off on Thursday?
Plan for the day off for me is to continue to generate more sweet content. So lots of written work, lots of podcast, breakdowns and things like that in terms of what we're seeing. I want to go through and just look specifically at one-on-ones that we've seen so far between wide receivers and offensive linemen and kind of break down all the percentages there. We had a day the other day where Chris Olave went 3 of 3 on his one-of-ones. Today, he went 1 of 4. Going up against Alontae Taylor, who iced him out for 3 straight one-on-one reps. I thought Alontae Taylor had a magnificent day today, by the way. I thought he was awesome, and I think he's going to be a very different player in 2024 than what we saw in 2023 based on his confidence level alone here throughout training camp. So leaning in on some more things like that and making sure everybody's got what they need. And then outside of that, of course, Matt, sleep, some rest.
What's the team going to be doing with their day off? They get like a water park day or anything fun like that?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'll have to dig around and see if I can find out what they've got going on. But I know that I know of a couple of units that are going to be spending some time together tonight as well. So this is the nice thing about about this whole having camp outside of town thing. It's not great for the fans who unfortunately aren't able to be here to see it, but for the team, when they're not here at the facility, they're somewhere, but they're together, and they're still kind of like bonding and building camaraderie and things like that. So I know of some plans of things that begin this evening. I'm not exactly sure what's going on for them tomorrow, but you're going to be able to see a lot of this kind of camaraderie continue to build between all these guys.
Ross Jackson, he's on Twitter at Ross Jackson Nola. Y'all give him a follow. Locked on Saints. We appreciate it, man. We'll talk with you on Friday.
That sounds good. I appreciate you, buddy. Take care, stay safe, and I'll talk to you soon.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.